We are now, though. All right. What were we just talking about?
Getting canceled before we even started.
The live feed has already been cut. All right. So, even though no one is currently here, let's talk. All right. Men of action. So, Christian and I, we've been talking about doing a show together for a little while. Or at least I've been imposing that on him for a while. I don't even know if he wanted to.
No. It's been a long time. It was well before I did this other Pretty Bad Movie Gab show. I was doing the Dead Man's Party, and I told him, I said, look, I can't do that because I kind of knew that this was a brewing. And like, you've been supposed to come on Exploding Heads for like freaking years. And that's going to happen one day. And with Brandon coming back, we should just wait till that happens, because that would be the ultimate, because that's what you wanted.
As long as, if I can wait for when you're off the show.
Well, that's episode 300.
I'm already doing the show.
300.
I don't need to double dip. I will eventually. I mean, I have how many episodes before you guys are done?
Oh, like 60.
Okay. So I'll come in on episode 300.
It might as well be the last one. Why not? 301's part even better. It'll just be you.
Even better. All right. So I mean, when I started the channel, and I'm sure you have the similar experience, it's like, as much as we love horror, and as much as we love discussing it, it is my favorite genre. It's your favorite genre as well. We're not just beholden to only that. We also love other genres as well, and action being one of those. And it was always like, when you get kind of when you get stuck in doing the same thing over and over and over again, as vast as the genre of horror is, it's always like, I always find myself talking about comedies and horror, or in action and all this stuff within the horror discussion. And it's always like, man, I want to have another show where I can actually discuss like action movies, because they're just as fun to discuss as anything, because they're just as ridiculous. They're a genre built on tropes and being excessive, and that's very in line with how I am as a person. So,
we could just do canon movies and just do the canon action films and be happy with that. But we decided to start the first one with Mad Max Fury Road. And you must have seen this in the theater.
Oh, yeah, opening day. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So as did I. Now, I'm not trying to jump right in, but I just wanted to, before I forget, it's funny because I loved it when I saw it.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, have never revisited it, and never, felt the urge to revisit it. So you mentioned it. I'm like, okay, popped it on. And my God, is this movie just so fucking fun?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's really just like balls to the wall the whole time. It's interesting because, like, the Mad Max universe obviously has greatly changed over the years, right? The first movie is kind of just in like the normal world, right? And Mad Max is just going after some like biker gang. And then we flash forward to the second one, and now we're just in post-apocalyptic hell. I don't know any franchise that's ever done that, where it's like, we're just kind of in the normal world, and then the next movie, without any setup from the previous film, it's like, now we're just in, Armageddon, post-apocalyptic hellscape, where everyone is fighting over resources. It's such a huge jump. And
I mean, from a quality standpoint, because there are people that love the Road Warrior more than Mad Max, and the only other, it's not, but it's still within the same realm, but maybe the Highlander franchise, like Highlander 2, that's something we're gonna have to do at some point. That movie's fucking bonkers.
I haven't seen a Highlander movie since I was a kid. So like I've never seen an episode of the show.
No, neither have I. Neither have I.
I watched because I want to say there's when I was a kid, there was like 5 films, but one of them was like a TV movie or something. I don't remember. I ended up watching all of them, but I honestly, my memory of them is nothing. Like I know kind of some stuff about it. Like there can be only one and all that stuff. I don't really remember. So it'd be fun to revisit those for sure.
Well, and it's not that I have any great attachment to him. I just know that Christopher Lambert's in like the first 3. That's it. That's and I remember that there's people flying on shit, and like it's like sci-fi mixed action. Like in the second one, and I don't recall the first one being so sci-fi like specific, but I could be wrong. Like that's why I kind of wanted to go back. But we don't have to. Again, I don't know if we're going to be tackling whole franchises, if that's our gig, or picking one here, because you mentioned Death Wish, and my God, 2 through 4, 2, 3, and 4 are fucking bonkers too. I would love to tackle just those ones. I don't even need to tackle 1 and 5.
Yeah, 3 is just crazy. 3 is just crazy. He just straight up. That's like. He goes from vigilante on the streets fighting like a couple guys, including Jeff Goldblum in a very early role, to like he's straight up John Matrix from Commando in the third one, where he's taking on an entire street gang and they're fighting with like the residents of the neighborhood and everything. It's so insane.
With no repercussions whatsoever. Like he's like 007.
I watched all of them like back to back years ago. So it's been a while. And I just remember 3 stuck out. It was like, this is insane. And then Eli Roth made that remake with Bruce Willis, which I actually quite enjoyed because it has like some pretty gnarly kills in it.
Yeah, I didn't mind that either. I mean, never get shit on because A, it's Eli Roth, B, it's a remake. Seems like the easy thing to shit on nowadays.
It came out in that time period where everybody wanted to shit on remakes.
But it's also come out when everybody's like, isn't there an original fucking idea? I'm like, this is Hollywood, fuckers. There's never been an original. There's been fucking sequels since the dawn of film.
I think you saw my post on that where the guy tried to come into my comments and be like, ever since I left the genre, I guess when I came back, people have gotten more gluttonous and want more. And I'm like, have you been gone since the 70s? I don't know if you noticed the 80s had quite a few sequels to the major franchises in horror. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And the 80s is their golden era. That's the funniest thing. They're like, I want originality like the 80s. Like, bro.
I read a comment today that kind of complements what you're saying, that it's about in a violent nature. And the person was commenting saying how much he enjoyed the film, and power to them. That's fine. Yeah. I think you and I are both like not as high on it. Like it had some great moments, but overall it was very underwhelming. And at least for me. So he's singing its praises and so be it. But it's the stance he took in his comments that pissed me off, where it's like, oh, horror fans be like, we want something original. Out comes, quote unquote, something original, which was in a violent nature. And it's, oh, this sucks. We want Jason. I'm like, dude, this was Jason. That killer was modeled off of Jason. Are you even trying to, I can't even believe he even thought. The thought even crossed his mind that this was being original. The only original take was the point of view factor.
Yeah.
That was it. And they even abandoned that when they shifted gears to the final girl. I know we're not here to talk about that film. And I'm getting very heated about it, but I'm just saying, like, they even abandoned their own idea for the climatic moment where it shifts to the final girl. And I don't even know if I was on board with that.
I think you're shifting into the original concept for this show, which was Skunk and Heat. Remember that?
That was a title that he came up with. My favorite saying back in the day was "you fucking skunk." And now, because I'm getting all worked up, Skunk and Heat. Okay, enough about horror. Let's talk about Mad Max. There's already comments coming in. People are going nuts with this movie.
I definitely liked In a Violent Nature more than you did. But the perspective is, you know, quote unquote fresh-ish. Not that we haven't seen it done before in one way or another, right? Maniac did it from the killer's perspective. That was a first person. This is a third person. So, you know, it's cool to see some kind of new perspective on it. But as far as like, oh, it should have been Jason. I mean, this is that same discussion to be had when it comes to Friday 5. And people are like, you know, oh man, I hate that movie. Jason's not even in it. And it's like, Jason is in it. Jason is in it, and in a dream, but he's also in it throughout the whole fucking movie. And if you were to have released that movie and just cut off the last like couple minutes where they announce that it's not Jason, that it's Roy, they'd be blowing it. They'd be loving it. They'd be like, oh, this is one of my favorite Jason movies.
It's but the most Friday the 13th of the
not be Jason.
I'm talking over it. Like, I apologize. But I agree 100% with you. I mean, it's the most Friday the 13th. At that point, you had everything that made a Friday the 13th film jacked up to 11. Yeah. Except for the fact that it wasn't the real Jason. The real Jason's only seen through hallucinations and whatnot. But ultimately, that was I love that installment. I've always have. When I was young, 4, 5, and 6 were the ones that I always went to. And as I got older, my appreciation for 1 and 2 grew. Not to leave out 3, but it just seemed that like 3 I've enjoyed. I enjoy it for the final chase. I enjoy it for the fact that I can watch it in true 3D now, which I've always wanted to do. And thank God with the Scream Factory box set, you're able to do that. Again, we could talk for hours just about Friday the 13th. Yeah, I know we're getting off. We're not starting our action podcast.
We're here to talk about whatever the fuck we want. And all right, so let's see here. What's going on, Ariadne? I am assuming you are at work. As always, this chick works more than anyone I've ever known in my life. I've watched this damn movie so many times, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. This movie demands my attention when it's on. I hope you're not watching it while driving. Like, this demands my attention.
He acts it out in that case.
He's living it out. Yeah. My wife is in the chat. Hello, my love. So as you can see here, the reason I'm not doing this with Kaylee is because she's not an action fan. So I can't really, she wouldn't be a good host for that. Her vagina doesn't allow her to like the movie. So we got an extra penis here instead, at least I think.
Well, yeah, barely.
No proof yet. It's there if you look, if you squint. Road Warrior and Fury Road are 2 of the greatest commercial films ever made in the action genre. I mean, you know, it's been a long time since I've watched the other Mad Max movies. And honestly, like, I'm sure I did watch it all the way through. I just can't remember ever having watched Beyond Thunderdome like 100% or not. Like, I know I have, but I don't remember like watching it. Like, I remember it for sure because like I remember like Tina Turner and I remember the Thunderdome and them fighting inside of it like gladiators, and like I watched it. I don't remember it. I'd love to go back and revisit it.
I wanted to revisit all 3 of the previous ones before we recorded. I ran out of time. So, but I've watched them all. I've watched them all numerous times, but back in the day. I'm older. And so it's been over a decade since I've probably watched, well, it's almost a fucking decade since this movie came out. I was shocked when I looked at it and said, holy shit, this was 2015. I forgot it was that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but we are entering that era of film, and I've talked about this before, where when you look back on films from 10 years ago when you are in like the early 2000s or something. I remember when I was a kid, you would go back to watch something from like the early 90s or whatever, and you would just be like, God damn, I thought this looked good. This looks horrendous. You know, like the it does not age well, right? A lot of these older movies, because of the technology, because of you know, the cameras and the CGI and the effects and all that stuff. Some hold up very well, right?
Yes.
Some hold up very, very well, but most movies don't hold up very well. And we are starting to enter that era now in the last like 10 to 15 years, you know, especially with specific films where I'm like, this is never going to not look good, right? Like we're finally in that era now where certain films are just like, this is future proof. This is never going to look bad. These scenes are never going to look like, oh my God, you guys used to think this was exciting. Like, I just can't ever imagine someone watching Mad Max Fury Road in the future and being like, this looks terrible, or like, this isn't thrilling, or like, oh my God, look how slow this is compared to other films today. Like, this movie is fucking insane from beginning to end. It looks like phenomenal throughout. And I love that about certain modern films where I watch them and I'm like, we're never going to look at this in 20 years and say, this looks like shit. Why did we used to think this looks good?
It's well, and you're talking just from the production value standpoint, but even from a resolution standpoint, yeah, I mean, these are the ones that were 8K, 10K, whatever the fucking K we're going to get up to. It's going to be future proof that way. Whereas you're kind of wondering, do we need Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Like, I love Texas Chainsaw, one of my favorite. I'm just saying, I've got the 4K of it, and people were blowing it, and I was happy with it. But I'm not even too sure it looks significantly different from my Blu-ray 4K scan. So there's where I'm going with this is those older movies. I think we've peaked. I don't know if 8K. The only thing I can think of, and this is going to be blasphemous for some, is with AI cleaning up the grain and doing shit to next gen these old classics, and that's going to be controversial all unto itself. But
how would you feel, out of curiosity? Just like, you obviously can have your version and you can have these other versions, but I've always been interested in seeing, and I know this is like the fun of the nostalgia of things, but taking something like Harry Potter or something like The Lord of the Rings and putting modern CGI like you know, in the future, and making it look like today, like
George Lucas did. Yeah, like, I mean, why not? I mean, he's been doing it. He did it with the Star Wars series.
He did people forget way too early. He did it way too early because it looks like shit now. As to where if you got the people behind like Avatar: The Way of Water to do like the cave troll in the Fellowship and make it look real, because now like I love them. I mean, they're my favorite movies ever made, and like when I watch them, it's so fucking dated. And it's like, man, if we could just, and that's the fun of it to a degree, but if you could make it look like that today, I don't know. Would it elevate it? I don't know. That's a good question. I would definitely like to see it to make my own judgment.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they'll waste or spend the resources on it right now, as it.
Sure.
But I'm not against it. I'm not against anything because we've got the originals. I don't believe, I'm not from the school of or thought of a remake destroys the original, or the remake's the remake.
In the case of Star Wars, though, that's not the case, because George Lucas made his special editions canon and refused to release the original versions. And to this day, unless you go to like, you know, pirating, or if you go to you know,
Laserdisc
other market seller, third party sellers, unless you go to stuff like that, you can't find Blu-rays or 4Ks of the original version of Star Wars, right? It doesn't exist. You have to you have it on like VHS, and I don't even remember if they I don't think they even released them on DVD. Like,
but
by
people
the time
don't remember
special editions.
only the super geeks, the super diehard fans, and I was a huge Star Wars fan, but I wouldn't even consider myself. I'm just a passive Star Wars fan now. I'll absorb what we get. I'm not even in a rush to see it much anymore, like I was. But back in the day when I was a kid, of course, those were my favorite movies growing up, and you don't remember those original versions until you go back and revisit them, obviously, unless you've managed to. My friends were all the same. Oh, I can't believe how much he's tinkered with them and everything, and then went back to watch them and said, "Oh, because it's more than just the image. Like he cleaned up the image, he cleaned up the effects, he cleaned up the sound. Like it was really what I was alluding to with AI possibly doing this for next generations. But again, we're all over the place here, but I don't even know if we're going to get next generation of physical because we're already knowing physical's already being limited in its distribution factor. That I think 4K probably will be the highest resolution we see released physical. Physical media.
Absolutely. And I don't even know if we're going to get to Mad Max Fury Road. So,
there's comments galore. There's comments galore about everything that we've been talking about. So,
remakes have been around for a long time. Yeah, no, I mean, this is just such a silly argument. The like remake thing. I don't know. So I guess when it comes to my opinion on all of this stuff about like, why don't they make this or why don't they make that? It's like people act like there's some limit to the amount of movies that can be produced in a year. And that if they produce this movie, they're not producing that movie. And it's like, there are hundreds of unique original films released every year. You guys just don't fucking watch them. Like, I watch most of them, right? Like, I really seek out everything that I can to really give things a shot. And I watch the blockbusters and I watch the fucking remakes and whatever.
And TV.
Because,
you see to watch everything.
Like, there's so much shit out there. So for anyone to claim, they're just not making original stuff, it's like, no, you're just not looking. They always are. They just aren't promoting it as much. And we still, like, for every year that we get this and that, you get fucking, Poor Things. You get these like really cool movies that are released in theaters. And unfortunately, a lot of the times nobody goes and sees them. And so the studios, you vote with your dollar, right? It's like, what will make money? That's all studios care about. It's like, what kind of quarterly returns can I generate? And unfortunately, the tried and true is the superhero movie. Now that's starting to fade a bit.
This year's a prime example. There's been more horror movies released to the theater this year than in recent memory. This is a great year for horror being released in the theater. Whether you've liked the content or not is secondary, but just from a release standpoint, I'm just interjecting. But I was shocked. I think there's like one, maybe two superhero movies coming out. That Wolverine mashup one with Daredevil or Deadpool. What are those assholes?
It's not your genre or like subgenre.
I don't mind them. I kind of got out of them, but then every now and then I'll watch one and it'll bring me back, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one was good. But it was like, every weekend a new one was coming out for the last couple of years. It was getting a little, formulaic. This is coming from the Friday the 13th fan, but ultimately there was very little differentiation between the movies when they were being released, it seemed.
Yeah, the new Dunes will absolutely look phenomenal pretty much forever. I mean, I think the second one is still my favorite film of the year. I'm a big fan of those. Suspiria 4K Synapse release is unreal. I just watched that recently. It's beautiful.
That's a great one.
You have not been familiarized yet. Oh, cool. Yeah, nice. You have not been familiarized yet with our resident
evil.
No, this guy, Shamarlos. He likes to come in here and just tell us random shit. So,
was it fiber? Was it high in fiber?
Shamarlos. He always wants to tell us what he ate. He's a very hungry guy. Always eating. So hello to Shamarlos. Let's see. Lots of great originals this year in horror and especially non-horror. That is Tony from Flopbuster. What's going on, buddy?
And who knew that Immaculate and The First Omen were the exact same movie until like the final act?
They're super similar, for sure.
I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I'm like, I just saw this.
Right. It definitely always makes you wonder, because I feel like every year Hollywood does this thing where they release two very similar films to each other. And
Dante's Inferno and Volcano. Remember that year?
Deep Impact, I remember.
And Armageddon.
Yeah. And then Wyatt Earp and Tombstone. And yeah, we used to get those all the time where it was like, someone is leaking information to another studio.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like the, Asylum before Asylum. It's like, we got to get something out that's close, something similar, except for they actually put a budget into those. Oh, wait, not you. Enjoy the chat, y'all. I've got to finish an audio. Oh, okay. Well, my wife is out, man. Jesus, we lost my wife. Woo.
Yeah, she's already done. She can't even watch us talking about action movies. That's how much she hates action.
Right. Exactly.
I don't take it personally.
$1. I paid to see Stop Motion, Birth, Rebirth, When Evil Lurks. I did not go see Green's Exorcist or Imaginary. I saw all of those, so I am part of the problem and part of the solution. I see all of the things that I shouldn't be, I guess, and all the things I should be. So I just support it all. I just fucking throw my money at everything. All right. So, Independence Day, Mars Attacks were out at the same time. That's funny. All right. So let's get into Mad Max Fury Road. Now, did you see Furiosa?
I did not.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
No. It's just, there's too much out, and I just haven't. I went with a family to see If, and I went to see In a Violent Nature. So I haven't been able to go see it. But after watching this again, I need to go see it.
So what you're telling me is the co-host of Men of Action decided to go see the Imaginary Friend movie with Ryan Reynolds instead of Furiosa. Okay.
Yeah. Well, sure. my son and wife called the shots on that one. So yes.
He's a dad of action first and foremost.
Yeah.
Which I commend, and I'm with you on that. Real men are good fathers. You heard it here first, people. All right. So it's interesting because, there's a lot of talk about how bad Furiosa is bombing. And I do find that kind of curious because Mad Max is so beloved. I definitely think that has a couple factors. We don't really need to get into that per se. I do think, of course, it has to do with it being a female lead in an action movie. Those don't usually bode well.
Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, you're right.
But, and it's even if it's fucking Anya Taylor-Joy, which is a shame because, of course, I want her to have all the success in the world. But what I find kind of interesting is that as well received as Mad Max Fury Road was, it wasn't like some box office juggernaut that you might think it would have been. Right?
No, we would have had something earlier.
I'm thinking of I would think Mad Max Fury Road made in the 700 to $1 billion mark because of how much people loved it, how much it was talked about, how much people went to re-see it when it came out. And with $150 million budget, it only made $380 million worldwide with $154 million in the United States and Canada. That's not that much money. For comparison, I think I want to say Knives Out made about that. I'm going to check that really quick. And that's just some kind of detective movie.
Yeah. Again, it's all relative. I mean, from the math, and again, half of this I'm making up on the spot here. it made money, but it
A
wasn't the
little.
hit that you're expecting, because ultimately you kind of have to double the budget based on from the marketing
Yeah,
standpoint and
exactly.
whatnot to kind
Yeah.
of break even and figure out where you're making. So it made money. It was still I guess a hit, but you're right. It wasn't the hit that we were expecting, which is probably why maybe it took a while, because usually it's kind of odd that a 9-year time frame would pass, unless you're the Friday the 13th franchise, that a 9-year time frame would pass before another installment was released.
But think about this, and I think that's because of the box office, right? That it took a while, and it's also kind of a testament to that George Miller takes his shit seriously and doesn't
Yeah.
want to just crank out a sequel in a year, and just because it's like being called for. Now, if Furiosa was made with Charlize Theron like a year or two after Fury Road, would it have done better? Yeah, probably.
I think at that
Uh,
point, the problem with it is now everything is seen as woke. Woke. Oh my God, it's a female star. It's woke. Like we've had this before, and no one really complained about it to that extent. Now all of a sudden, it's like a woke movement. I'm like, isn't it just a character that we just spent time with in the last one and was
but
popular?
if
Like she's a
you
kick-ass character for a one-armed chick. She's kick-ass.
but I mean, we've talked about this before, and this is something that, this has just been sensationalized by you know uh, politics, right? This is all this has become. People have weaponized specific words and made them meaningless, to where the word woke to me is just like completely useless. Like there's literally, I don't even want to hear the word anymore. It makes no sense. um but
Oh, that was
like
going to be the title of
we
the show at one point.
right. But if you look at throughout the history, especially in the last like 40 years, there's so many films, especially like, because you could go to all sorts of different examples in the 80s, where you have the badass chick leading the movie, Ripley of course being one of those, Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. That's in the 90s, the second one. But like, if Terminator 2 came out today and they took Sarah Connor from being kind of like this meek girl who was being protected by the man, and then they made her like the tough action chick, oh my God, it would absolutely get destroyed as woke propaganda. Now, you could release the exact same film, and I 100% guarantee it that would happen. But when you look at the 90s were filled with the like chicks wanting to be the tough action character, like Angelina Jolie, a bunch of them with like the Tomb Raiders or whatever. This was very prevalent, but no one really talked about that at that time. It just became very politicized in the like mid to late 2000s to tend for, and that's mostly just because of the internet and all these subcultures of these little bitch boys who are so worried that women are gonna like replace them or some nonsense, which is like the most pussy ass thing of all time. It's like you're showing your hand pretty hard there.
It almost seemed like to be a reaction to or an extension of the Final Girl, right? We'll relate this back to horror whenever we can. I'm not going to, but ultimately, like you take that and then you just build upon it. Like Ripley was the ultimate final girl in a sense, and then she becomes the star of Aliens. That was 86. Like,
yeah,
these examples go way back to well before this. So you're right. It's just been the hot topic of the last, since 2016, 2017.
But Cameron likes to do this, right? Like, hey,
yeah,
that. Cameron likes to do that. He likes to take sequels,
moving more to the left,
and make the girl. All right.
Perfect.
But Cameron does that. He takes the girl from the previous film, who is a fighter. I mean, she's a survivor, but she's not like badass, right? And then the second one, it's like, oh no, she's hardened, she's seasoned.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on from any of that, I just find that whole thing funny. And with Furiosa, I did want to discuss it. I think Charlize Theron in this movie is very believable, very badass, great character.
She's awesome. Well, I like her as an actress. I mean, I liked her even from when I saw her. I think the first movie I saw her in was 2 Days in the Valley. I don't know if that was her first movie or not. And then when she did that turn in Monster, I mean, she won me over. I was in.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, so
She's
I mean, she's great in this. I mean, her look is awesome too. But I mean, I just love how her character builds. Like, I mean, I don't want to jump all over. I don't know what your intention is with this, because I like to jump all over the
I
place.
don't really
But
care.
like when she's
Go for it.
stabbed and she's like losing blood, like she doesn't look like she's gonna make it at all.
Oh yeah.
But still kicks ass through the final reel. Like, I mean, it's just so well done. And I mean, I don't know what people were expecting from the new one, since this one is typically about a bunch of women kicking ass. Like, Mad Max is no question he's in it, but I
Yeah.
mean, he's practically secondary, to be honest.
Yeah. And to point this out, this Children of the Corn 3 Urban Harvest, this is Charlize Theron's first movie.
Wow. I did not know that.
No. Yeah.
You know why? I'm not 100% sure if I've seen that one. I know I've seen 1 and 2.
Oh, 3 and 4 are the best ones.
Interesting.
They're fun as hell. And 4, funny enough, the star of this is Naomi Watts.
Naomi Watts, again. I mentioned it, I think, on your show, and I guessed it when we were talking about it. I want her to be Pamela Voorhees in a new vision of Friday the 13th. I think she would be the ultimate Pamela Voorhees.
And then in part 5, one of the main characters is Eva Mendes.
Oh my God. Although I heard that one sucks.
It's terrible, but it's kind of crazy how many like big names are in those 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do kind of find it fascinating that with Mad Max Fury Road, as popular as it was, and because and here's another really wild thing for this movie, and this is how much it landed with the audience, because this would never have happened otherwise unless it was beloved on this level. This thing was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture of the Year and Best Director. Like, this type of movie would never, ever get in the Academy Awards as a Best Picture nomination, a Best Director nomination. This is the kind of shit that the Academy looks at and sticks their nose up and laughs. Like, there would never, ever, ever. But this was
George
so
Miller,
beloved.
He's got a tendency to do this with movies that you would not expect. I mean, that other one is Babe. Yeah. I fucking love Babe, by the way. That pig movie. The pig movie. I'm talking about the goddamn pig movie. That was nominated, I believe, for Best Picture. And I'm not 100% sure, but I thought he was nominated for Best Director too for that. I could be wrong there. I didn't fact check that or anything, and nor am I going to. But I do recall when that movie came out, that was one of the best movies of the year. It was great. And I was going to make a joke earlier because he didn't rush a sequel out, because when he rushes a sequel out, like Babe, Pig in the City, they don't do so well. But George Miller, man, like that's some high praise. And I don't know if you remember, this came out in 3D. I saw this in 3D. I'm also a sucker in 3D. Yeah,
everything
but I mean,
on 3D at that time.
Some of them, and I don't know if this was shot in 3D. This might have been converted, like most of them were. But for whatever I remember, it played out amazingly. I mean, the chases, which, let's be honest, for a 2-hour movie, take up probably over half of it. I'd say like an hour and 50 and an hour and a half of this is like they're just phenomenally staged. Like, this is impeccably directed and edited, sound design, the whole 9 yards. And we haven't even got to the kookiness of it all. Like those trampolini guys, fucking guy that just is hired to play the fucking guitar and fire out flames. I mean, there's a big giddy smile. I can take myself back to the theater and remember sitting back, absorbing these images in 3D again, and just loving it. Smile, grin from ear to ear, and not even questioning, why is there a guy with a fucking like big machete-like guitar shooting flames out? Just, I'm accepting it. I'm in this world, and it's just fucking fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very apparent with his demise in the movie that scene was meant to be 3D, where the guitar's thrown at the screen, and
Yeah.
that's very, very 3D.
Yeah.
It sticks out a bit like a sore thumb now.
Well, it's no yo-yo into the screen, how the Friday the 13th Part 3. But I mean, you do have a few things. But hey, I commended on that because a lot of the ones that were transferred or converted to 3D had no reason to be in 3D. They just converted them. So you're like, at least this gave you some of those old gimmick 3D moments, which I actually like. As long as the whole movie's not built upon that, which this isn't. But the depth even in the chases, I remember. I mean, I've got this in 3D to watch at home. I still have my 3D TV to go back and revisit downstairs in the basement every now and then to check out and watch movies in 3D.
So yeah, to fact check, Babe was nominated for like 7 Academy Awards. It won Best Effects. It was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, but George Miller did not direct it.
Oh, he produced that one. I forgot.
He wrote it.
Oh, okay. That's
wrote and produced it. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, you were mostly correct on everything.
I love how he had to check everybody. Fucking guy.
Why not? Why not? I had no idea. So you did good there. I was completely off on that. I would never have thought.
It's going back. That's going back 30 years.
I was more pulling for Babe Pig in the City personally, but the classics never get recognized. But yeah. All right. So let's talk about Mel Gibson. So now, obviously, at this time, Mel was dealing with a lot of ramifications from his run-ins with the law, his famous tape of him slighting the Jews, to say the least. And of course, that really fucked his career up for a while. And, you know, now he makes movies, and he was making movies when this came out. Do you think that they should have went with Mel? Like, how do you feel about Mel Gibson being in this role? Because I feel like he could have done it. I mean, it's not a question of like, does he have the physicality to still do it at this age? Would you have liked to have seen Mel Gibson in this role, or are you good with Tom Hardy overtaking the role?
Like you, he could have done it. I have no problem with Tom Hardy doing it. I mean, there's barely any dialogue. Like he grunts through the whole thing. I mean, he was fine. He looks the part. He's fine. Could Mel Gibson have done it? Yeah. Tom Hardy, I think, looks more like how Gibson was back in the day. So I don't know if they're going to do an age thing or what. I just think it was just too problematic for him to be in the movie. So as much as I would have liked it for continuity factor, I'm totally fine with Tom Hardy being in the role.
So you feel like if he didn't have the bursts out,
he would have been in it.
He'd be in this movie.
Yeah, assuming he wanted to be in it. He may have been at the, like, it's funny how things, like, now from a retrospective standpoint, so many people, love what they did back in the day. I feel like again, I could be totally wrong with this because I know that he's got a cameo, I believe, in the new one. I don't know if it's more than a cameo, but
I saw the movie. I didn't see him.
Oh, I thought he had a cameo.
Fuck, maybe I missed him.
I haven't seen the new one. I haven't seen the new one. I thought that was the big thing. I didn't know if I got spoiled something or if maybe I just saw something. How did I see this? Now I've got to go back and look at what image did I see that I thought was Mel Gibson in the new movie. So obviously,
I'm hyper familiar with Mel Gibson and his face, and unless he's under like prosthetics or something, I feel like I would have noticed him. And I was paying very close attention the whole time. So if he was in it, man, I fucking completely missed it. I'm looking for the cast right now.
This could be me just being totally wrong because I didn't see the movie, but I saw what I thought was a still, and I'm like, oh shit, he
People
came back
made
for a
that up.
cameo.
That's
Oh,
made up.
God
That's
damn it.
totally fucking made up, because I'm looking through the cast list right now, and no, I mean, unless
Well, I went
unless
through that
I'm
too. I went through the list and I'm like, oh,
oh
maybe he's unbilled or uncredited. But again, don't quote me on that because I haven't seen the film. So if anybody wants to pipe in, and you saw the film, so you would have known if he was in there.
hold on, I'm on X right now, quoting you. Christian Luciani says Mel Gibson is in Mad Max Furiosa.
Jacob says if he was in it, he missed it too. So this must just been some fan made shit that I happen to catch as a still. I don't even, how social media is too. I don't know. But yes, could Mel Gibson have been in it? Yes. Would it have been great for continuity? Yes. But I think he was just not going to happen based on the time frame
What
of,
are you talking about? Fucking
of
the
Mel
internet.
Gibson being Tom Hardy.
Internet, no, the internet is like the most truthful place on earth. I've never seen a single lie. I've never seen anyone manipulate images. Never. What are you talking about? You're talking crazy.
I thought you were serious. I'm like, what is he going on about now? This fucking guy. Just for a split second, then I realized, no, you're just being you.
It's the truth tellers. Nothing
Yeah.
online is fake ever. Yeah, I mean, we start the film. We come in on Mad Max, and this is his most dialogue in the film, which is his voiceover.
Yeah.
And he gets chased. We have the iconic car, and that iconic car is immediately taken out. And it's like, nope, Mad Max is going to be without his baby. It's going to be without protection. This kind of like takes his armor off of him. This takes him and completely strips him, of everything that we know of him. Right now, he's got to just make do with what he's got, which is nothing. I mean, when he got his car taken out, and then he was just taken and put into this like fucking jail, and is being used as a blood bank because he's a universal donor with some fucking tattoos on his back for the rest of his life. Yeah, I mean, it's such a crazy beginning, because Max doesn't even really become a character until he finally escapes the front of that car, which is like, what, 45 minutes into the fucking film?
It's true. And he's a hood ornament for the first part. And he's wearing that and he's wearing that mask, like that fork mask for after the movie. I guess they're just trying to build you up to his character so that you can accept him as Mad Max. You don't see his face fully until
as good looking as Tom Hardy is, and as much as women seem to love him, people really love to put fucking masks over his face for half of the movies that he's in. Whether it's The Dark Knight Rises as Bane, or as that fighter pilot in Dunkirk, or as Mad Max, they got some fucking thing covering half his face in like half the movies he makes. I don't know what that is.
Maybe it's his choice. Maybe that's a stylistic choice. That's what he wants as an actor.
He's like, yeah, I mean, shit. You got Venom. He's under that fucking thing half the movie. They're like, you know what? Let's take our good-looking guy and let's cover his face for half the fucking movie.
If I have to nitpick a little bit, the only thing that I thought, I guess they're trying to give a little bit more dimension to the character. And please help me out here, because I did just rewatch it, so I should have the answers myself. But the flashbacks or the flashes that he keeps having that are almost like jump scares seem to be a little distracting and not necessary.
They're also like, because his family, that's supposed to be the family that gets run down in Mad Max, right?
Yeah.
Because that looks nothing like the family.
I assume so. I'm assuming that that's what's haunting him, but it seems just weird to be wedged in to this one. But
maybe he went off and got a new family after Mad Max, and that one got killed too.
He's like one of those traveling salesmen that like somehow has like a family on the East Coast and the West Coast. I'm like, fuck, man, how do people do that?
I don't know, man. We gotta figure that shit out, though.
My one salary can't even fund this family. What the hell?
Isn't that's what it is in Big Fish, right? Isn't that
or something like
That's
that.
what
Man, I like that
that's what
movie.
it's found out to be in Big Fish, is like he has like different families in
Yeah,
different
I think that's one
locations.
of the things. I didn't think it was. I didn't realize it was multiple, but
No, it's just two families, I think. Yeah, that's a common thing in these. It's like, yeah, who the fuck? I don't got the energy or the money
oh
for a
god
family.
damn,
You kidding
that
me?
takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, these guys got many. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't mind them because they fit the chaotic nature of the film. I find them to be, um, just as wild as everything else in this film, and it's supposed to give him some kind of background without being super expositional. And Mad Max, obviously, he's not much of a talker, nor was he ever in any of the movies.
True.
In Road Warrior or any of these, he doesn't talk much, so that's not a new trait. It's not like Tom Hardy can't handle dialogue, right? Like it's a choice that's always been made with this character. He's not much of a talker, so that's nothing new. But what I was gonna say earlier is that this movie, while it is very simplistic in nature, right? It's basically a chase and a race, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the first half is the chase, the second half is the race. It's we got to get away from them. Okay, our plans are fucked. We got to go back and beat them before they get there. Last one in home is a rotten egg. So they obviously they race back to the Citadel. But the great thing about this movie is the visual storytelling, right? Like the whole movie is brought to us, the world building, the lore, everything is brought to us through visualization. Almost nothing is ever told to us. It is always just you are being told by looking at the world around you and how everything operates. And I love that about this movie. This movie does not spend any time wasting any time where some person has to like they just woke up from a coma or they're new to the area and they got to be like, well, what's that over there? And it's like, well,
The new
that's this.
Godzilla Kong movie is the perfect example of what you'd hate, where they have to explain everything happening, whether it be via voiceover or a character directly saying it to another character, because otherwise the audience wouldn't have any clue, or it doesn't have enough faith in the audience knowing what happens. You're right. They collect milk. They don't go into detail why they're collecting milk and why these all these women are like hooked up to like tubes and discharging milk into containers. They talk about it a little bit later. They make one reference to it later, but you just absorb that scene and you're in the world.
Well, I mean, obviously the reason that they're doing that is because human milk is like perfectly designed for humans to consume, which I've always kind of found fascinating. This is kind of off topic, but not really. This is something I've always found very fascinating about human beings and how easily conditioned we are without even thinking about it. So like, if I say an adult was caught drinking breast milk from a human, people are like immediately like, oh, that's fucking weird. Like, why is he drinking human milk? That's fucking bizarre. Human milk was designed for humans to drink. That is the milk made for us, by us, for us. That's literally what it's there for. But then
I smell a new business venture.
Gallons of animal milk all day. Like it's not weird that people consume cow's milk to people. Like you're like, yeah, I drank a fucking gallon of cow's milk today, and people are like, oh, that's normal. But
in this generation, we could probably make this $1 billion market. Just imagine the logo, just a nice big set of like
big set of titties on the cover. But isn't it
That's
weird?
A Dave Chappelle
isn't
joke,
that
I think,
fucking weird?
Yeah,
that, like,
it is weird.
Humans are so off put by the idea of drinking the milk literally designed for us to drink. But then animals' milk, which we're not really supposed to be drinking, we're just sucking it off the tit of an animal. And we're like, that's fucking normal. But you drinking a mom's milk, that's fucking weird. What a pervert you are. We've actually like sexualized it. That's what it's come. It's like, oh my God, you're drinking milk that was designed for your body. Oh my God, what a pervert.
Yeah.
It's a really
Hopefully,
bizarre thing, but that's why obvious. I mean, that's obvious, right? It's like the mother's milk is like in that world. It's very, very hard to get nutrients. It's very, very hard to get the proper balanced diet that you need to stay alive, especially since a lot of them are obviously dying from diseases that are brought on from so many different contaminants and you know whatever. Like there's like growths on everybody's body. The half-lives, the war boys, they're all fucked up from God. I don't even know what. Like, did they ever even say like what's wrong with the half-lives?
no, not again, not that to my knowledge. I feel like we're just thrown in, and it's just like these are. And again, chime in everybody, but no, from my understanding and from just watching it again, nope, it's not really
Yeah.
discussed or mentioned.
So I think what's happening with that, from my guess, from just like seeing what's going on in the film. So Immortan Joe is trying to produce offspring that are not deformed. And I think it's very common in that world to give birth to people with birth defects. And he, of course, he houses those women not only as trophies and to fuck them, but he also wants to have an offspring. He wants to have offspring that are like, perfect specimens, like normal humans. And I think that the half-lives are yes, and a son. Of course, he wants an heir. But the half-lives are just kind of like the reject kids from all of the other women in the town that are just giving birth to these babies that are all fucked up and are having like tumors growing on them. They he gives himself like little faces on these tumors and stuff and names them, which is really funny. And he has to do like blood transfusions in order to stay alive for longer. These guys die young from whatever kind of like autoimmune diseases or whatever that they're born with. So I think that's typically what happens with a lot of babies in that world. They're fucked up. And if you can raise them in an environment with proper nutrients and proper this and water consumption and clean water and all this, you can actually have like a baby that's normal. Now, it doesn't really make sense though, because if Mad Max was played by Mel Gibson and Mel Gibson was older and we had done a time jump like it should have been, where the world at this point has gotten to a place where Immortan Joe can have this kind of temple set up with like carvings in the mountains, like fucking Mount Rushmore, and you can have Bullet Town and you can have Gas Town, and you can have these places. Like that's something that would happen over many decades, right? As to
and
where
the
Mad
controlling
Max
of water.
Like the same age as he was before the collapse of society in the first movie. He's only maybe 10 years older or something. And it's like, it wouldn't happen that fast. And for that to happen, you would have to have a lot of babies be born and age up. Because Nick, our main Nux, our main war boy here that ends up being on the side of Furiosa and them in the end, he's got to be like in his 20s. And it's like, he was clearly born in this world, this dystopian wasteland world, but it doesn't seem like enough time has passed because of the age of Max, since we know Max was in the old world before things fell to hell. So the age actually presents a bit of a problem with the story and how far along evolutionarily we are with the people in the world as it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I wasn't really thinking about that, but you're absolutely right. By casting like a fairly young, what's Tom Hardy, like maybe in his 30s?
At this point, I would say he's probably in his mid 30s.
So, yeah, and even if he was supposed to be playing someone that age or in the 40s, you're right. It doesn't necessarily. There should have been some time that went on. Let's use Mad Max Jr.
Because like if you take Immortan Joe, for instance, he is he looks like he's older, right? He's supposed to be in his 50s or 60s or something. I know he's played by the same actor that plays Toe Cutter in the original Mad Max, but it's obviously a different character. His body is riddled with like disease and all these things that he's covering up with his armor, and he has to wear like a breathing mask. And so he's fucked up from the world, but Max doesn't seem to be affected. He's still like, a cover model. So it is odd that like in some places people, in Furiosa, the same thing. It's like some people seem to be really affected by this world and others don't.
Yeah.
You would think that though, Immortan Joe would want his offspring like his Rictus. You would think you would want Rictus to be the one that was, reproducing with his brides, because he is like the ultimate specimen. He's the fucking like 7 foot tall, muscle bound monster that seems to be physically superior. And it's like Immortan Joe's got fucking diseases all over his body. He can barely fucking function. You would think like he would want that offspring to make grandsons as heirs, because his Rictus's seed would be better seed than his. Like he can still fuck the wives, right? You can still have the sex, but why not make your son be the one who's trying to impregnate them? Because I feel like you would have a much better chance, and it's still your heir because that's your son, right? You're still related to the kid. It would just be your grandkid, and you could tell people whatever you want. Hey, they're actually my kids, like whatever you want. It just seems like, from a practical standpoint, Rictus should have been the one that was impregnating the girls.
Well, no, Rictus is what? I'm getting confused.
That rips off.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I know exactly, the big muscle. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Nathan Jones is the actor's name.
Interesting. I wasn't even thinking that. Didn't think the conversation would go that route, but you make absolute sense, because it's not like the dad is, he's a monster.
Yeah. And maybe that's, he obviously he's very egotistical, and I'm sure he thinks he's perfect in every way. So it makes sense that he would want to do it. But I guess if you were being more genuine about things, I would think that that's the route he would go down. But this is just shit off the top of my head. I didn't even write any of this stuff down, but as we discuss it, these are more coming to me. They're kind of like plot issues that I don't really care about. Like, it's like, I think this is what would make sense, but the Mel Gibson thing, the older actor, I think, does create a bit of a story issue, because I don't think enough time has passed to set this world up correctly the way that they're trying to present it. I feel like at least 30 years had to have passed. 30 years would have had to have passed in this world for it to be at the level that it's at.
Yeah. Agreed.
At least, so
now that time frame passed in real time, in real life, more so. But the reality is, you're right. The casting of Tom Hardy at his age sort of throws that out the window.
I mean, it's not an ego thing. I'm not going to let another man. This is what I'm talking about, though. This is like, you can lie to your people. I mean, but it is an ego thing, because he has to protect his own ego, because he's the only one that would know the truth. Him and his wives, but like everyone out in the town square, you can tell him whatever the fuck you want. Like, oh, this is my baby. Look how perfect he is. So to me, it is definitely an ego thing. It's got to be my offspring, because I'll know the truth. But anyway, all right. So moving on from that, question. Anytime you watch these apocalyptic type films, whether it's a zombie apocalypse or a wasteland apocalypse after, nuclear war or whatever, is this something that you look at and you think, just kill me? I don't want to live. Or are you somebody who's like, no, I'm a survivor. I got a doomsday bunker. I'm ready to take on the zombies. I want to live through this. I'm always.
I don't want any part of it. I want to be part of the dead. I don't want to see what the world becomes. I don't want to be, one of those that like, have to survive off the land and hunt for, look for fuel
Red
and
October.
food. Yeah. Or for Red October. Exactly. No, I don't want any of that. I want to be dead and gone.
You want to be made into Soylent Green?
Yeah, absolutely. Turn me into fertilizer, video game just don't want to be part of it. And I've always looked at that too. I don't think I'd do well. I'd just be like, I wouldn't be able to relax. These people trying to sleep, you'd be looking over your shoulder constantly. I'd be like, oh, fuck this.
So where do you think you would be the least like prepared? Where do you think your weakest area would be in this world? And what do you think would be your biggest strength in a world like this?
My biggest weakness is just the day-to-day survival.
So like what part of that? Like scavenging for food?
Yeah. I think just getting along, not having trust issues, not being able to trust anybody I came across. I always question it in these movies. I go, what is with these movies? And the trust is at a zero level. Like there's no trust. I mean, we're human after all. Then I realized, it's because people fucking suck. So I wouldn't be able to trust anybody. Constantly be worried about stuff. I wouldn't be able to sleep. So I'm like, that's no way to live. And then would I want to live? Because all the things that I want, unless I have like a 4K player and all my movies and electricity, then what difference does it make? Because if there's no electricity or whatever, then fuck it. What am I going to do? Go to the park and go down a slide 400 times? I need my entertainment, man. And entertainment is like that. And again, anything else from like a human nature, like fucking, eating, whatever, you're constantly going to be wondering if someone's going to be killing you or coming out to take your shit. So what I'd be good with is the initial getting away, hopping in that car and driving that car as far or whatever it may be, as far as possible with the fuel that I've got, heading up north and just try to get to an island or something. And then once I got to that island going, now what? Now what the fuck am I going to do?
Then... All right, now I'm here. Fuck it. Should have just done this and saved myself the
back
time.
In the city. Why? What about you? Do you think you're a survivor?
I mean, of course, no one wants to live in this world. I know my weakest area is I don't do well without food. I'm actually going to the doctor tomorrow to try to make sure that I don't have like some form of diabetes or something, like, because if I don't eat every few hours, I feel like fucking shit. And if I eat any sugar, I feel awful. And it's been like this for years and years and years. And I'm finally like, all right, dude, I gotta, like, I've checked it out before, but I gotta check it out again. I'm gonna talk to this doctor more thoroughly about it, because I'm like, this is fucking crazy. So like, I wouldn't do well. Like, anytime I watch these movies where people like have to go days without eating, and they're also like having to be very extraneous on their bodies, I'm like, there's no fucking way, dude.
I mean, that whole chocolate bar.
Couldn't do it.
I'm not having like a square a day for a week. That whole I'm eating the whole thing and then figuring out. That's why I know I'm not going to lie, because I'll glutton myself into a point where like I'd have to find something.
Did you just reference the movie Alive in 1990? I think it's 92. Remember that movie with Ethan Hawke?
Oh yeah. I know. I saw that movie. I read that book back in school.
Because in that movie they're given one little square of chocolate and a thimble full of wine. That's their intake for the day. So when you said a little piece of chocolate, I was like, wait a minute.
Anytime there's rationing of food, I'm not going to do well.
This is actually something I think of all the time. That's something I think of anytime I watch like The Walking Dead or any of this, and they have sex scenes. I'm like, it's like hobo sex, dude. I don't know,
post-apocalyptic soap you can wash yourself with, please.
Just a dip in the river, man. Just a quick dip in the river. No, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't give up. And like Jacob said here, You know, it depends on if you have a kid. But then again, do you want your kids living in this? I couldn't
Yeah,
kill my kid.
I have 3 kids, and
So,
yeah, exactly. But I
right?
Sophie's choice them. No, I don't know. I think for that, I try to get them to safety, and then yeah, that's the problem. The dad instinct
But
will
you got to
come into
protect them.
play. Exactly. But then I'd be like, fuck. Like I'd be a mess. I wouldn't do well.
Right. So you shouldn't have had kids because the apocalypse is coming soon, and
Yeah.
you're
To
the
a theater
shit
near
dad.
you.
No, yeah, I don't know, man. I definitely I think your survival instinct kicks in just naturally, right? You're gonna be just so it's the day to day is just gonna be the survival and the hope that you're gonna that something good's gonna come tomorrow. Oh, the power will come back on tomorrow. We'll find the community that has the power. You know, we'll find clean water. We're gonna find whatever. So, I think hope and the natural instinct to stay alive would definitely keep you alive a lot longer than you might think. But I've also always mentioned how funny it is to watch certain movies like back to back and the difference of how humans once were versus how they are now and how inept and pathetic we've become. Because if you watch something like the Blair Witch Project and then Robert Eggers' The Witch back to back, it's very, very funny because both of them are kind of thrown out into the woods. And within like a couple days, Heather, Josh, and Mike are basically dying. They're just like, it's over. We're fucked. We're out here for a few days. Even if the Blair Witch didn't find them, just being lost in the woods for like a week would kill them. Period. No animals.
They're dead day 2.
They're dead fucking very, very quickly, right? It doesn't take the witch to kill them. The witch could have just bided her time, sat back, kicked her feet back,
Yeah.
and let them walk in circles, and they just die. But in the witch, back in the 1600s, they're thrown out in the woods. Then we fast forward a year, they built a fucking house. They got a farm. They're like thriving, right? You throw us in the woods right now, we're dead day 2. Maybe we might not survive the night, but you throw those motherfuckers out there and they got like a Marriott built in like a year out of coconuts and fucking tree bark.
I'd like an island, with a cow, some chickens. I'd be
an island with a cow.
Yeah, a cow and some chickens.
Everyone in the post-apocalyptic world gets an island with a cow.
Yeah.
You're not asking for much. I'm just asking for a private island, cows, chickens.
I'll take the island. I'll take the island. I just want some chickens and stuff. I just want, if I got some eggs, I should be fine.
You wouldn't even know what to do with the fucking chickens. You'd be 5 minutes in, you'd be fucking them.
That's fine. I wouldn't have to worry about the sex then. My God.
Did you ever see the movie Top Secret with Val Kilmer?
Yeah. Back in the day, those ones were always great. The airplane crew, Zucker and Abrams and Zucker, right?
They parody like Blue Lagoon in that movie where they're stuck on the island together as young kids. And then like they fast forward a little bit and they've built a whole house out of like bamboo and fucking coconuts. And he uses like this button and it opens the garage. That's like what you'd be asking for. You're like, no, I don't need much.
Not much.
I just need a 3-story house, 6 bedrooms, full air conditioning. Cows, chickens.
Definitely electricity. I mean, that goes without saying.
I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be so nice. No, thank you. I definitely don't want this kind of world to exist.
Where's all the gasoline coming from? I know that they talk about how much they blew through.
There's no gasoline in this movie. There's guzzling.
Okay.
It's guzzling.
Guzzling.
Well, it's coming from Gastown.
Yeah, but they blow like this whole movie's driving around for fun. Like they're just throw willy nilly. Like you'd figure they'd want to just again ration. But no, they're blowing through it. They're driving like tanker trucks and whatever. It just like it's crazy the sheer. But there's like, isn't that what they're fighting for in the Road Warrior? And here it's water, and it's like the
Yeah.
gasoline's like they got at their
They
mercy.
figured
They
that
got a
out.
ton of
They
gas.
figured that out.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we produce gas right now in this country to power millions and millions of cars. Millions and millions of cars. So to think of this world that probably only has like a few hundred cars and maybe like 50 motorcycles. That's not that much gas. That's really not that much gas. Now, to your point, would they have enough gas to be driving around this much throughout the day on one tank and racing back and forth without any fuel trucks like following behind them to fuel up on? That might be a little unbelievable. Now, Furiosa's truck does have a huge thing of gas on the back of it. She does blow that up though, so it doesn't get used. It's not filling the tank back up. But I would think, I don't know how much those semi trucks can hold, but I'm assuming they can drive for a long motherfucking time without having to fuel up, like a day straight. So I think as far as that goes, but I don't think it would take that much production to fill the cars that they have, because they only maybe have, like, even in that huge chasing with all the cars you see, that's like 1/1000th of a traffic jam on the 405 in LA traffic.
Yeah,
right?
I guess
Like
that's true.
nothing. This is a very small caravan of vehicles compared. And Gastown, from what we see, because we do see Gastown in its glory in Furiosa, but in this movie you can see the production of Gastown from afar, and it's pretty big. So I think they're producing enough gasoline or guzzling that I don't have an issue with how much there is. Now, these outskirt towns that are not getting gas from Gastown, how the fuck they have gas, I have no idea. Maybe their cars run on blood, like in Blood Drive. But in this world, supposedly it's all guzzling, and they're having to get it from Furiosa. You would think like they'd be wanting to work on their like freaking solar technology, getting a lot of sun out there in that desert. I'm sure there's plenty of energy that they're missing out on. They need some Teslas.
Yeah, that's it.
They'd be definitely doing much better with those. But as far as the action goes in this, and the car chase sequences and all of that, fun little trivia here. I don't know if you know this or not. Obviously, most films are shot out of order, but this is one of the rare movies that was shot in sequential order. They shot it from first scene to last scene, straight in a row.
Very interesting. If I did read that, it was years ago because I forgot that factoid, but that would probably help make a little bit more sense, or make it easier for the pretty much the orchestration, like orchestrating the whole chase sequence, from whether it be storyboarded or framing and everything else. Like I guess like a dance routine, it would be like choreographed. Like you want to choreograph that whole thing. It's crazy the amount of detail that they get into with that scene. So that doesn't surprise me. That actually makes sense.
And as much shit as like Furiosa has gotten over like CGI and being like, oh, Mad Max Fury Road was more, was all about the practicals. There's a lot of CGI in this movie. Let's not bullshit ourselves. Like most of the backgrounds, a lot of like the inserts, a lot of the like, cleanup shots and all of the compositions and all, composite shots and all that stuff. There's a lot. There's a lot of CG. Yeah, Furiosa's arm throughout the whole movie. There's a ton of CG in this movie. I would be curious to see how many, effect shots there were in this compared to the new one.
But it's well done.
Did you know the editor was sent 470 hours of footage to edit?
Wow.
Imagine.
Holy shit. That's just goes to show you what the job is. Like, I mean, that would be overwhelming. You get all that. Just, the only cool thing would be if they're filming it in sequence. He's obviously working on it as probably
Yeah.
as they're progressing, but still 400
And
hours.
70 hours. Yeah.
470 hours. Holy shit.
That's crazy. That's so much. Max has 52 lines of dialogue in the movie.
Which we
And that's
spoke about.
including
It's
the
fine.
opening voiceovers. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary because, throughout this is a show, not tell kind of movie. You don't even need, like, it's barely even said that, like, Furiosa steals these girls from a life of servitude and rape and imprisonment and like none of that stuff is really even needed to be said. It's very obvious. You can discern that kind of information yourself, and I like that movies like this, they have a respect for their audience enough to say, we don't need to explain these things to them. Like, is it even 100% necessary to understand it? Not really. I think you get the stakes. Like, Furiosa betrayed Immortan Joe, and Max is just trying to stay alive. There's a lot of trust issues, of course, at first. Now, do you think that there's any kind of hint at a romantic thing with Furiosa and Max? Or
It seemed like they avoided it. No, I didn't get any sort of hint. You'd figure that would have been at the forefront or almost asked for in the film because every movie seems to have a like a love interest, but nope. It's almost like they played it straight.
Yeah, because we do play with, because we get a few Nepo babies in this movie. We get Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter, who is now Catwoman in the Batman movie. She's really good in this. And we also have Elvis Presley's granddaughter here, Riley, who was in plenty of movies recently, but The Lodge is my favorite film that she's put out. But she has like a romantic kind of thing. I don't know if it's a romantic thing or it's a mothering thing. I'm not 100% sure how to
I thought it
read
was a romantic thing. I thought they were
Nux.
trying to establish it between the Motormouth guy, the guy that
Nux.
Yeah. Dude from Warm Bodies. Why can't I think of his name? Jack and the Beanstalk.
Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah. Great actor.
Nick Hoult. Yeah. He's great. I mean, I loved him in Renfield. He's Beast in the X-Men movies. He's gonna be in Nosferatu coming up here, which I'm really excited about. He's gonna play Lex Luthor in James Gunn's Superman movie. I think he's very talented, very cool guy. I always liked him. He's really great in The Menu.
Yes.
I think he's super fucking crazy, wild, funny in that because of everything that happens in that movie with him. I really like him a lot. But I was wondering, because she's like a mother figure, I was wondering if it was more of like a mothering thing, like she was trying to care for him, like, because he's one of kind of a Morton Joe's like war boys, and like he's kind of this almost abused child, because a Morton Joe uses classic cult mentality to manipulate his followers, right? He gives them limited resources, don't become slaves to water, and promises them that if they die in battle that they're gonna go to the gates of Valhalla, and they basically live their whole life to be rewarded in heaven, much like Islamic terrorist organizations that are like going to be gifted like 72 virgins in the afterlife or whatever. But so we kind of got that kind of that religious kind of bullshit where he's selling them on this.
It could be, but I actually got the vibe that it was like, and they don't really go anywhere. That they're like, this movie had no time for a love scene or whatever.
No.
There's like, they share looks, but the looks seem to be leaning towards the romantic, but you're not. I could see what you're saying as well from a like a caring motherly standpoint, but there's something. Yeah, they both
I agree
respect and
with
understand
this
each
as
other.
far as as far as Max and Furiosa go. This is kind of what I was going to get at as well. I do. I think it's kind of that nod of like, we respect each other. We know what we're at, what we're about. We're the good ones. We're the ones that are fighting for what's right. There's not enough of us left. We understand each other. We live in a world that's chaotic, and there's not a lot of trust left. And like, we now have this now. Max, in the end of this movie, he has the option to go into paradise with a bunch of fucking newly single babes, and all the fresh vegetation and clean water that he can drink, and he decides, as some kind of martyr messiah kind of figure,
Yeah, he littlest hobos his way out of there.
He's gonna walk the earth like Jules in Pulp Fiction.
Who in turn was walking the earth as dude from Kung Fu.
What you're gonna be is a fucking bum, and without a place of residence.
He dark man's his way out of there. It's almost feels like the same shot where he's like, I'm no one, I'm everyone.
Just for clarification, Christian is not referring to Samuel L. Jackson as the Dark Man. He is referring of the Leslie Nielsen movie.
No, I'm or the Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie, wait a minute. I'm like, wait, no, that's not right. Liam Neeson. I knew I said that wrong. We were talking about Airplane like fucking 10 minutes ago with a fucking Top Secret. That's fucking hilarious. But yeah, no, you're right. He's just like, no, I'm going to reject paradise. I earned this shit, by the way. He could have had Furiosa. He could have had,
the Neon Demon Girl.
Oh yeah, Abby Lee. Yeah. Who's your favorite of the girls? Who are you going to Valhalla with?
Oh, well, again, just Charlize Furiosa. It's like it's the most kick-ass of them all. Either her or the old lady. But she was kick-ass too. Anytime they got attacked, she would pop out of whatever nook to blow the bad guy away. She was awesome.
She came out of a glove compartment at one point.
I swear that's what she did. Like, gotcha, bitch. But then she just, the way she gets killed, where it's like she just gets caught, and then she just sort of falls. That was so realistically done. It was so great.
Yeah, she kind of just sits there and is just kind of is like, this is how it happens, huh? Like, after all this time, after all this fucking weathering, after all the shit I survived, I'm just going to take a hubcap to the head and I'm finished.
It's kind of how I want to go before the apocalypse happens. When you're talking about that, that's what I want to happen. Like, I come out and go, what's going on here? Boom, hubcap to the head, done. Dead. Just fall back into a peaceful slumber.
Just a freaking line drive to the head at a baseball game. Just sitting there having a hot dog 1 minute. You're at the gates of Valhalla the next minute. Yeah, that's funny. She is good. I'm not taking her to Valhalla though. You know who I am taking to Valhalla of all the girls in this movie? My wife, obviously. No one else. Right, babe? Right, babe?
Should have heard what we were saying before you came back. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, okay, there.
You're back.
You clicked it, yeah. I saved myself from myself. I was going to say a chick, and then I accidentally muted myself, and it's probably for the best. I'm sticking with my pick, babe, and just you. Yep, there you go.
Well, with Charlize's arm, I just think it'd be great because then she could give it to me anally with that one arm.
Okay.
I'm thinking outside the box. Yeah, exactly.
She can put all sorts of different attachments on there for variety. That's perfect. But if my wife sadly was killed by cannibals and I had to pick someone else,
yeah,
babe, only if you are dead. So just remember, it's you until your death. But if you were gone, it would probably be Abby Lee, maybe the Neon Demon chick. I don't know.
Yeah,
any one of them, I guess. I'm good with any one of them. They're all very attractive. He definitely picked. I don't know. I would assume those were the only picks. It's not like he had a whole, big room of hot chicks to pick from. I think he took all of the ones that exist and put them in his little harem. But yeah. All right. What else? What else did I got in these notes here? I haven't been really looking at them. You would think though, okay, speaking of cults and speaking of this whole idea, because I'm always kind of fascinated with this whole like promise in the afterlife bullshit of like, you got to do all this stuff for me. And then one day, probably you're going to get rewarded, and you really got to bank 100% of hope that you're being told the truth, that you really are going to go to this like heaven-like place that's going to be filled with everything great and you're going to be rewarded. But I'm a practical guy, and I'm going to need a down payment up front. I'm going to need a little something, just a little something. You don't got to give me the whole thing up front, but you got to give me something.
Yeah, give me
one of your wives. Give me one of your wives at least.
Neon Demon me up, because I'm not going to fall for that hook, line, and center. Like these guys, I don't know. Brainwashed like most cult members, I guess, because I don't know if I would be jumping vehicle to vehicle. Like how do you audition? Like who gets the role of being one of the catapult guys as opposed to a driver or a motorcycle? Like who gets that role? Who gets the guitar gig? He's like the only guy that can play guitar
in this world.
Yeah.
Well, the Doof Warrior, which I think, I think that's somebody that we all just had a great loud chuckle. I think it's that at that point you kind of knew you were watching something that was going to be memorable, that was going to be kind of iconic. The first time you see that Immortan Joe has this like guitar playing, drumming truck that just follows him around, like instead of just having a radio like a normal person, he has to fucking bring a caravan band with him. Oh, he's got a traveling
How many drummers has he got? There's like, I think four drummers,
I think. He's got now, he's playing that entire time, the same fucking songs. Like
he likes his theme music, traveling with them.
Does Immortan Joe have the ability to like skip tracks? Can he make requests?
Yeah, exactly. Like
just kind of go.
And why is Eddie Van Halen like constantly there? Like he's just doing Eruption constantly. Like that's the only thing he plays whenever they're in a car chase. Like does he ramp? Does he ever do ballads? Like if
I want to know who
driving slow,
taught him how to play guitar. Did he go through guitar lessons, or did he just start shredding?
And are there actually any strings on that thing? Because it just looks like it's just metallic flamethrower.
It looks like, I don't know how he makes the flame activate. I think he has to kind of like throw the thing up for it to activate. But it looks like it's a half bass, half guitar. It looks like the top part is a bass and the lower half is a guitar. I don't really honestly understand the mechanics of that instrument.
Yeah, he made it himself.
He made it himself. He's blind, so he's the Ray Charles of metal guitaring in the wastelands. Yeah, I mean, that is obviously one of those things where if you overthink it, if you think about like the Doof Warrior taking guitar lessons, I think you're going to probably be taken out of the scene. But
or like, how do you audition? How do you become one of the catapult guys or high jump guys or whatever? Because not only do they have one, they've got multiples. Like it's a great way they introduce them. They come zooming in and you see them swing in. And again, I remember myself going back to the theater in 3D and remembering that scene, and it just being phenomenal. Seeing it, it was great. But there's multiple. There's like I think 4, 6, maybe even 8 of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Maybe more.
They're bomb droppers, right? Like that's the whole idea, and then that's how they secure the one wife, right? They grab her out of the car.
Yeah, yoink,
yoinking them in and out. I can't remember. How do they? Oh yeah, okay. They get up into the car and they take Immortan Joe's car back. Yeah, okay, that's right. I definitely like his death. Every shot of this movie is just amazing. I love the big action sequences. I love when he like jumps the car over them and lands, and they're racing and they're like spitting gas into the engine, and
Yeah,
like it's so insane, the entire film. It's just
it's like,
how
you're
can
not
you
spitting
not have
fast
fun
enough. Like,
watching this movie?
that was like Mad Max's big heroic moment. He's like, get out of here. You're not spitting gas fast enough. So he takes over to spit the gas faster.
Yeah. Do you feel like they earn each other's trust, or is it kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, we have to trust each other, right? I mean, that's what that's what it comes down to, is like, we have to trust each other because we got really no other choice at this point. And then it's like, I guess you are reliable
I
because
think it
you're
starts
banking
that
on a
way
lot.
because
Yeah.
he doesn't really, he's not very inviting when he's like has a shotgun to them and try to get the bolt cutters to get the thing off his face. But I think once they're past that and they go through that first little bit together, I think there's a mutual respect at that point.
So if Max doesn't show up, if he's not brought into this movie for them, if Nux didn't demand on having him in there and driving him on the front of his car, Furiosa's plan completely falls apart, right? Like, do you think, I'm trying to think of like the variables at play with Max and how he holds them up in places and thwarts certain kinds of things. Does the plan go a little smoother or way worse? Do they get out of this with or without Max? I think probably not.
I think without not, because I don't think they would have thought of going back, because she was not for that idea. He's like, we're going to go back, and they're like, oh, it will take this much time. I don't know if we'll have enough gas or whatever. And she's like, well,
they would definitely not have ended it back up at the Citadel for sure.
Yeah,
you're right on that. That's a good point. They would have never ever ended up. Actually, no, that's not true. They would have ended up back at the Citadel with a Morton Joe in them in handcuffs.
Yeah, exactly. And he also said, well, again, the way we're going to go back is we're going to go back the way we came.
Yeah, but I'm saying that if it wasn't for Max, I think they would have just gotten caught and they would have went back to the Citadel. It would have just been under imprisonment. But so Max, he does kind of fuck them up at first because he does hold them up from leaving fast enough, and he does some things that kind of screw them a bit. But I think ultimately he fixes more than he breaks. And I don't think Furiosa's plan was very good. I think, she, of course, it's not the best circumstances. And I think that they're all willing to die. It's like, I would rather die than be here. So I think the plan, while it's not perfect, it's like, fuck it. I'd rather try it and see. But I don't think this plan was going to work unless the wild card came into play.
Yeah.
So Mad Max it's not like he's completely useless. Like, I think some people would be like, he's pushed to the secondary role and his character's kind of just there. It's like, no, I think his character affects the film enough that you can argue, it's not going to work without him. He is.
And they complement each other because of their different styles. And I think that's what I just looked down, and that's what Jacob, I think, was, they need each other. So and ultimately, I mean, otherwise you don't have a movie, or there'd be too much of a hole. I think this one establishes their mutual respect and the fact that they need to work on each other's strengths and use each other's strengths to get through. I mean, like I said at the beginning, when we were first starting to talk about it, when she gets stabbed, you don't realize how bad it is until blood's pooling down. She even has to tell the guy, "You're going to have to drive now." Like she's dying. That's how bad, but still kicking ass while dying.
And I mean, and he has the blood transfusion thing on him. I feel like he just gave a ton of blood to Nux. He doesn't had a lot of time to recoup his blood. I don't think Max is surviving with as much blood loss as he's had, even though he hasn't been cut open or shot or anything. He gave a bunch of blood to Nux and he gave a bunch of blood to Furiosa. That's probably why he made that decision not to go up to Paradise with those girls. He was just kind of like brain dead from no blood in his head. And he's like wandering out into the crowd like, where the fuck am I? What's happening? It's like, it reminds me of the ending of Dumb and Dumber when they don't get on the bus with the freaking plate, like the swimsuit models. It's like, what are you doing? Get on the fucking elevator, dipshit. And he's like, oh God, I'm feeling lightheaded. I'm feeling a little woozy here.
I'm sure that's how what you compare to Dumb and Dumber.
I make leaps. What was I gonna say about this? Oh, the sniper shot. So with the sniper shot, one little pro tip for Max here, he could have done one slight little movement that would have helped him out real big, and it would have been something very simple. He could have just went.
I know.
Don't let someone shoot a gun 1 inch away from your ear.
Oh, no, here
you don't cover your ear. You will be
You're done.
deaf.
Exactly.
Deaf.
I think it happens at least twice in the movie.
Because they do it in movies.
Don't
right?
move.
Like, what movie do they do that in? They do that in a movie where they fire a gun next to someone's ears to deafen them. It's, what movie is that? It came out in the last, like...
Well, this movie did what probably the movie you're talking about does as well. At least they do that dampening sound with the tinnitus, like ring. Yeah. And whatever. So like, I love that. And that's almost becoming a trope because
it goes away after like 10 seconds though.
Yeah. This would have been permanent damage. No question.
It would have been, it would have been Death Max.
That's probably why he didn't go up to the things.
They're like, you want to come with us? And he's like, guess they're not inviting me.
Yeah, I can't hear a fucking thing. I haven't heard the last half of this movie.
He's like, man, I gotta go get some sugar. My blood's running low. Why hasn't anyone said anything to me in the last 2 hours?
Give me some of that mother's milk.
You should have been fucking drinking that by the gallons, man.
I love how he just washes his wounds off in it. What's this? It's milk. Okay.
Yeah. And he's it's like, hey, Dick, we're drinking that.
Yeah, I know. Like, do you mind? That's our substance for the next 5 days.
Yeah, you couldn't use the water hose that's right there. That's clearly for fucking showering. He's like, no. Splashing his face with milk. That is funny. The thing that she gives him, is that like a file and he's filing off the lock? You would think she would cut the mask off.
Yeah.
That would have been like, no, cut the mask off, not the chain. And
yeah, that's all. I was wondering why they cut the chain off. It's like they needed one extra scene of him trying to, I don't know if, I thought it was just another knife that he was like trying to, or like one of those mail openers. I don't know if you've ever, like my grandmother had a mail opener. It was like literally like it looked like a little spear like that. And you'd stick it into an envelope and rip it open. I'm like, who needs those?
People who are opening a lot of mail.
Yeah.
They're letter openers. You
I've been using it for my email. My computer's all scratched up. It's the fucking weirdest thing. You got mail. You got mail. Them's the jokes, everybody. Welcome to Men of Action.
Good God. Show has been canceled. Men of Action 2024 to 2024.
Yeah. One episode. We didn't even make it through the pilot.
We have decided not to pick up your show for the rest of the season. Thanks, but no thanks. Shit. Yeah. Oh yeah. There is this. Yeah, I remember this. Oh yeah. They set off the bomb in the car and it deafens all the guys. That's when Wayne Grow kills them all, which sets off the chain of events that leads to the death of De Niro's character. Are you a Heat fan?
Saw it in the theater. Really enjoyed it in the theater. Again, another movie that I just haven't gone back to really. I maybe have seen it once since then because that was a long time ago. But yeah, it's not one that I throw on willy-nilly.
If
I'm gonna watch
3 hours long, so
I like Scarface. I don't mind certain throughout, like Midsommar, I like Scarface. There's certain ones that I don't know if Scarface is not 3 hours. I think it's like two and a half.
I think it's 3.
Close to 3.
I think it's the full 3. You like Boarding House, the director's cut?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
That's 3 hours long.
I'm not.
You know what movie?
I hope I don't make any fan. I don't like shot on video.
No, it's
I
terrible.
can't do it. I can't do it. It just
Yeah.
looks too cheap for me.
Terrible. Terrible. There are certain movies that have like those kinds of qualities to them where there's this obvious production value drop off that you're like, why does this movie look like this? Like
Yeah.
Thinner is a great example. Thinner looks like it was made for TV. And
That
I
was
don't
Tom
know.
Holland,
I
and I
know.
saw that in the theater, and I remember thinking the same. It just looks cheap. It's something
Yeah.
about it. He did another one, The Temp. I think I don't know if he directed it, but he was a part of it. Same sort of thing. It was the '90s. It was just this '90s flat look, and it
Yeah.
just looked
Well,
like
this was, I think, I don't know if this was shot on digital, because I remember that happened with Session 9. I remember when Session 9
well,
came
that
out,
was shot on video or
that was
shot on.
shot
Yeah,
on digital, and it was like one of the early films shot digitally. And it very much looks, I mean, it's a phenomenal film. I
that one I
love it.
like. Yeah,
But it does, yeah, it definitely, it's noticeable to a degree. But with Thinner,
28
it's
days
just one of
later.
those movies. It looks terrible.
Yeah. It's just
It just,
certain ones. Certain ones. I'm telling you, go back. There's a '90s aesthetic that was used for direct to video, and that carried over to certain feature films too. And it was just something about there. And I shit on, like, I used to love Wes Craven as a kid. Like, he used to be one of my favorite directors, but I he. I not anymore. I mean, I know you
not
don't
anymore.
like Scream. I actually like Scream, but like, there's just so many shit breeders that he's made, man.
Yes.
That
Yes.
and they don't even look cinematic. They look
Yeah.
like they're thrown together. There's no art. There's nothing that separates them. There's something about it. Like, don't get me wrong, still love Nightmare on Elm Street, and still a few of his other movies. And I like Scream. I know you don't, but I do like Scream. But I'm talking about, like, Deadly Friend, Hills of Ice
Oh yeah.
2, Shocker,
Yeah.
it doesn't end
You're fine
there.
with Stare, Serpent in the
My Soul
Rainbow.
to Take. Fuck. There's
Yeah.
It kept
Yeah.
going.
Red Eye. Yeah. Yeah, you know me. I'm not a fan of Wes Craven. We covered his entire filmography here on the channel. We went from every film, even his made for TV movies. I love it. Doing that. I love going through that kind of stuff, and really just getting into an entire filmography of a director it's interesting. And Wes Craven is that director that I've always said, it's like he gets this kind of like perch in the alums of like horror gods, and for me it's very unwarranted. I think he's had some wonderful successes, Nightmare on Elm Street being the prime example, and Scream, of course, is a classic. People fucking love it, and that's great. So I can't ever deny those types of films, but for the most part, his filmography is rough. S. Craig Zoller, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I actually had to look him up, to be honest. I
Oh,
wasn't
really?
sure.
Oh,
Then as soon as I looked him up, I'm like, okay, yeah, Bone Tomahawk,
yeah.
Brawl and Cell Block '99. I didn't see
Drag
Dragged Across
Across
Concrete.
Concrete. Oh, okay.
I didn't see that.
He
But
wrote Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich, which is
I
kind of
liked
crazy.
that. I liked that movie. I was
Yeah, I love
shocked at
that
how much I
movie.
liked that. That's the
That's
best
super
Puppet
good.
Master movie, to be
Easy.
honest.
Easily.
Because it had a sense of humor to it and a bit of heart. It was funny and gory.
Yeah.
Bone Tomahawk, I've got a weird relationship with this movie. People are blowing it, and I
Which movie?
like it. Bone Tomahawk. I didn't
Oh,
love it.
that
I
was
liked
Dave's
it.
favorite movie that year.
And so, but I liked it better the second time I watched it. So it's good, but
It's
it's
Terrifier
definitely
before
one.
Terrifier.
You think so?
It has the fucking slit down the middle kill
Right.
like Terrifier,
Yes.
but it's way more realistic. Way more realistic.
Yeah, I forget that. Well, that's where it gets gory. That's where the horror sort of kicks in. I mean, that one's very dialogue heavy, which is fine. But it's like horror is like the second half of it, and even questionable at that. But hey, I'm one that will say the coffee table to me was. Oh, I think you kind of agree. Horrific element, but not a horror movie.
I'm fine with it being horror. Dave wrote me and was like, Christian doesn't think it's horror, so I don't get to talk about it. He said it just like that. That I read that through his text. No, I think I think you're an asshole, and you should have let him talk about it. And
I didn't say we can't talk about it. I'm like,
it's horror enough for me.
I said I liked it. I said I liked it, but I don't consider it a horror film.
Okay.
A really horrific event and an unsettling feeling does not make a horror movie to me.
Yeah. Who made you judge, jury?
Well, that's my opinion. I'm not saying that needs to be what you need to fucking believe moving forward. I'm just saying that that's what it is. I don't know why Dave didn't say we could talk about it. I didn't say we couldn't talk about it. We can talk about it. I was just going to say that I didn't think it was going to be horror. And I don't care if someone thinks it is or it's the most disturbing thing ever. Fine. So be it. It just was, I thought it kind of comedic.
Yeah. And people, babies getting their heads cut off. Fucking laugh.
I'll laugh a minute.
I'm living the life talking movies in the afternoon. I watch Sugar Mama's work, and I wish I had a sugar mama. I wish that my wife paid for more things than I do, but unfortunately, we don't got it like that. I don't got no sugar mama as much as you guys might like to think so. My wife and I are still 50-50 on everything. But it's a good sentiment. It's a good sentiment. Yeah. I like the idea of it. It's just inaccurate. I wish it was true, though. Littlest Reich is the only good Puppet Master movie, in my opinion. I'm not 100% opposed to that being true. I don't like the Puppet Master movies.
Neither do I, but I could probably get through 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 3 from memory. But The Littlest Reich, I was shocked at how good that was. I think I actually put it on my list that year because I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed that movie. It's a fucking Puppet Master movie, man. Like most of these other ones are what we were just describing as direct-to-video. These are worse than shot on video. It's like one little concept just fucking made based on the name. I don't even think they go beyond that to think of anything else to make them worthwhile of your time.
I would compare it to like Leprechaun Returns, where it's like it's taking a really kind of mediocre franchise and putting a super fun director or writer behind the project and releasing it, and it being so much more fun and better than you would have ever expected it to be. I don't know if you saw Leprechaun Returns, but it's from the director of The Void, and it's super fun, and it's got some great kills.
I had a stick up my ass the first time I watched it and was like, oh, this is no different than the other ones. Then I rewatched it and said, what was I thinking? It's the best Leprechaun movie of the fucking series. Because I actually went to see the first 2 in the theater. The second one actually came to the theater. And then the rest went to direct to video. I dragged my girlfriend, my high school girlfriend at the time, to those. I don't think we were in high school at that time. I think we were I was.
I was going to say, she was in high school. You were
terrible.
In your 30s.
No. You son of a bitch.
You're like, I don't know if she was in high school at that point. She might have been in middle school.
I'm actually a Leprechaun Origins apologist as well. The one that doesn't have...
Okay.
I like that. People shit on that. That's got the worst rating on IMDb. That one and Returns are actually probably the 2 best.
The sequel I actually like the most, that I have a great time with and I laugh my ass off. And when I went back, so I covered that franchise very, very early on in Sinister Cinema. Like it was like second or third franchise I covered on the channel. So long time ago.
100 subscribers at that time.
What's up?
100 subscribers at that time.
At that time, fuck, probably less. Like probably half of what I got now, at least. I'm at like 200 now. So I've made it a long way since then. But yeah, I was actually shocked because it's always super. I'm sure this happens to you, and it happened to you with Leprechaun Returns. It's fascinating, and Session 9 is the best example of all time for me personally. It's fascinating to go back to certain movies and you have a specific opinion of them that you hold very adamantly for years, where everybody brings it up and you're like, that movie's shit, that TV show's shit, whatever. And then you finally go back years later and it takes humility. It does for people. Like certain people would never do this, but like I go back and I watch them certain movies and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. This movie's awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
dude,
Like the first
I've
time I
got a
watched
handful of
Session
those.
9, I hated it. I hated Session 9 the first time I watched it. I actually thought it was terrible. And then I went back and because everyone was blowing it so hard, and I saw it in every
Balls deep.
fucking like I saw it in everyone's list for like best, haunted movie, whatever the fuck. And I kept seeing. I was like, what the fuck? How is this movie so good? And I hated it so much. Fuck it, I'm going back. And this was like 5 years later. And I went from like what I would have considered like a 4 out of 10 or something, to my second viewing being a straight 10 out of 10.
Isn't that and that's a crazy
jump I've ever had.
Yeah. Mine, one of my big ones was The Descent. Saw that in the theater, was bored shitless. I actually fell asleep while watching it. And I was not blown away. I thought the monsters didn't look all that great. I was like, I always use the term, I had to stick up my ass. So I left it. I never went back to that movie. I thought I don't know what I rated it. Let's say a 5 or a 6 or whatever. Just, it was fine. It existed. I remember even thinking, I'm like, they had all these visions of this girl, the woman remembering this birthday party, and I don't think they ever paid off. It was like a really weird thing. And then so one of our listeners made me say, that's the one I want you to rewatch. And I rewatched it and said, I don't know what I was thinking. It's a fantastic film. The look, everything, the vibe, everything about it was fantastic. I don't even know why I was so fucking dead set against it. But my experience was almost total opposite. It wasn't a 4 to a 10, but it was like, 5 or 6 to a 9. So not significantly different, but like that. Even Dr. Sleep. I liked Dr. Sleep, but people were blowing it. So then when I saw it in the theater, I'm like, it's a 7 out of 10. It was good. And then I rewatched it, and I'm like, again, I was like, I watched the director's cut. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. This movie's fucking fantastic.
I think with something like Dr. Sleep, I get it to a degree. I loved it the first time because I'm better than you. But with something like a sequel to something like a classic, iconic film, a legacy sequel 40 years later, like a Blade Runner 2049 or a, Dr. Sleep or whatever, I think it is a lot to take because it's like you're building upon something that is synonymous with us in our lives, in our minds. It's like,
true.
It's like part of our, it's part of our upbringing. It's part of like who we are. The Shining is so iconic to our lives. It feels like a family member or something. So to make a sequel to that, and Mike Flanagan, of course, was tasked with a tall order, not only making a sequel to The Shining, but also making a more kind of faithful-ish adaptation to the book, while also making it a faithful sequel to the Kubrick version, which changed a lot of the events that didn't happen in the book. Because obviously at the end of the book, the Overlook blows up and is not there anymore, as to where in this one, the Overlook obviously remains, because at the end of the other one, he just dies in a maze and it's just still there.
Would you say that they overlooked the ending? I'm out.
Ooh, Jesus. Oh my God. That was not your shining moment. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Wow. No, I know. I'm stabbing myself in the hand just to punish myself.
Sorry, everyone. Christian's been drinking too much red rum and can't come up with any good jokes.
Wow. If mine was bad, that's not much better. Whoa.
Oh, come on. The shining moment was good, but I got no credit for that.
No, I was selective. I'd be very selective.
Typical.
No, so I hear you on that. I even separated that. Flanagan's interesting because we talked about this when I think I jumped on your live podcast when you're celebrating your 20,000 subscribers, but because I think he popped up in conversation, and I like Hush. I really like Hush, and I really like Dr. Sleep. I've enjoyed some of his other things, but I don't see him as a second coming that a lot of people like they put him on this pedestal. And I want to, but I don't seem to have that same experience.
Yeah. I'm still getting like emails and complaints that you were on that stream. I was like, God damn, dude, I'm inundated with so much.
Well, what did I do so wrong? Just I kept them from answering the questions.
Oh, you mean forget this one all the way up here at the beginning? I just keep getting asked every fucking live stream. Where's my answers? This is a kid from fucking Better Off Dead. Where's my $2?
Yeah, I didn't make friends that time because I think there was an agenda that you guys had to do, and I kind of derailed it. But hey, that's what I do.
That's what you do. That's what you're here for. Yeah. That's why we're here now, and we're still not fucking answering any questions. We spent half this shit. If you ever listen to Christian's podcast, you guys do movie discussions supposedly, and the first like hour and a half is like the intro. It's like, hey, what'd you eat for breakfast yesterday?
I mean, we try to keep it every now and then it goes down a path. And again, some of that was recorded during COVID times. So you hear some of the discussion of what the hell was happening in society at that time. But we try to bring it back to horror because it can get pretty dire. But I mean, if people want horror straight talk only, remember Nightmare 3, straight talk only in here. If you want horror talk only, it might be a little loose in that first hour and change. You made that joke. You said your intro is longer than my shows, and you haven't even gotten to the movie reviews yet.
Your intros are longer than the movies you're talking about.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So Kaylee is under the impression that all of our Shining jokes are good. That's good to know. That's good to know.
Well,
what do you feel like your favorite? Oh, right. It says it's been 7,000 days, which is
19
like
years.
Right.
I got 19. My math is a little bit better.
Almost 20. 19 and a half years, somewhere in that area. I guess that's enough time, but Max is looking, for someone who barely drinks any water, who barely has any food, who cakes out in, bakes out in the sun.
They look dry. Day. Everybody looks like a prune in this movie.
He looks pretty damn good for a guy who's been in the sun and the wasteland for the last 20 years. He still feels like he could walk onto any movie set and get a job.
I mean, who's with me? You figure these people are actors. Lose the fucking Australian accent. That was us to get canceled. We had to get canceled. It's shocking. This was an Australian-born film. Everybody, the filmmakers, the cast are Australian. It's funny because Charlize Theron, no accent. So, she's from South Africa, though, right? She's not Australian. She's from South Africa.
She's not, and her character was born in like this green paradise, almost like where Wonder Woman lives in the movies. Like that's how they do Furiosa in the prequel movie. So I don't know if people would talk like that where she's at or not. I don't know. But yeah, they're not doing the accents in this movie. Nobody cares. They're here for the card.
They shine through. Oh, and that's what you get. And this is why when people say they're disappointed with this, I don't know what they are expecting. But because I feel like it's like you get that bit of a setup at the beginning, his escape, he's a hood ornament. There's a huge fucking chase sequence. It stops like for a little bit of story to find out that she has these women and then they want to get back to her homeland, like Alderaan or whatever. And then that's kind of blown up. Star Wars-esque, because they passed through it as you found out the green space is gone.
Yeah.
And then they come up with the plane to get back, and then it's the fucking final chase. And it's like it's 2 hours, but you would never think it. It's so fast-paced.
You've actually talked to people who were disappointed with this movie? I've never
talked to anybody about it, but when you just when you go down the rabbit hole of any comment section of any fucking thing that exists, you just realize that you're like, wow, I share air with these people, and it just seems to be that this movie, like any movie, has people
Anyway.
that are like that didn't enjoy it or complained about it. And I'm just hard pressed to find what didn't you enjoy about this one? What was it that didn't resonate with you as a viewer?
But I mean, there's never going to be a film that is beloved by every person. It's just never going to happen. There's what we like and what other people like is just different, just period, outright. So I don't know. There's no film that's ever going to have 100% across the board love, and online is at this point, I try not to even bother. I remember I used to really enjoy going around the internet. Like, remember the IMDb
message board days? Yeah, man, the message boards.
Those were fun, and that was just a time when you didn't get to talk film as much. But now we've been doing this for 20 years. We've been talking to people online about movies forever, and now we've all kind of branched up. Now it's become high school. We got our cliques. We found our crew. The early days of the internet was like kindergarten. And you're still trying to find out who you're going to land with. And now that we're 20 years into the internet, we're like in seniors in fucking high school. We know who our friends are.
How many years did you attend school for?
I don't need. I actually didn't even go to senior. I made it to my junior year. But that makes a lot of sense, right?
I wasn't going to say
I don't even bother with it anymore. I don't enjoy discussing, and I'm starting to kind of get over even responding to the comments on my videos these days. I find there's just so much negativity. There's so much like people just want to go and start fights. They want to be relevant. They want to be acknowledged. And the only way that people can get any kind of reaction out of people and to remain relevant and to remain engaging or whatever, like no one responds to people that are being pleasant anymore. And it's like who can out shit post the other person, and who can talk the most shit about this thing or that thing. And it's like that's all people do anymore. It's just like one upping each other on who can be a bigger dick. And it's like, I just don't care anymore. I honestly, it's just, I'm so beyond it now. I don't even bother even looking anymore. I don't care. I used to go to IMDb and I would look through the reviews and I would get so mad. Like, what do you mean? This movie's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. My opinion and like a few of my friends and my wives, that's all I care about. My wives, yeah. My wives.
You heard it here first, everybody. Yeah, he's doing that coast to coast thing we were talking about earlier.
I keep them in a big safe vault.
Yeah, and with these milk tubes attached to them.
And then I just.
Well,
yeah, I don't care. Like, does your wife watch these movies with you, or does she not give a shit?
Some of them, yeah. I mean, we share certain similar. Like, she'll come to the theater for certain ones, not all of them. Like, I went to see Violent Nature by myself. I have like a couple of friends that I could have gone with. You know what? I didn't want to wait for time. I was like, opening day, I went to a matinee by myself, and I didn't want anybody's opinion to distract me. I didn't want anybody's other feelings. And in fact, I just pissed myself. Like, I was ready to leave actually at that last point where it switched to the car, when it switched gears with the girl. I almost wanted to get up and leave. I'm like, this is going on way too long. I know what they're trying to do here, but I was just so annoyed and fed up at that point, but I didn't hate the movie. That's the funniest part. I stayed to the end and I didn't hate it. But I didn't stick around for a post-credit sequence. If there was one, I missed it because the second those credits went up, I just left.
There actually was a post-credit sequence, and Mel Gibson showed up. Crazy.
Awesome. You fuck.
Yeah. He was like, all you fucking Jews in the audience.
Yeah, but she won't watch. She won't watch anything. If I find something that I think she'll appreciate as well, she'll watch it with me. Like, but my daughter, who's unfortunately got off to school, not unfortunately, fortunately, she's off, but she is the one that would watch all the horror films with me. My other daughter is okay with certain horror movies. Like we all went to see Saw together, but she wouldn't watch like, if I said, "Hey, I'm watching this," she'd be like, "Okay, enjoy it," and whatever. But like my other daughter
How
watched
old is she?
Immaculate with me. Sorry?
How old is she?
The one that watches horror with me is 18,
Yeah.
and my oldest is 20. And my
Jeez.
son will watch certain ones, but like not all. Like he likes Scream. He's 12. I couldn't watch, like I was a scaredy cat when I was a kid, man. I just started getting into horror. I was still scared of it at age 12. 13 is where I was like, I gotta conquer this fear. But I was scared shitless as a kid of movies, of horror films.
So your kids are age 20, 18, and 12. Is
Yeah.
it ever like, does it ever confuse you that you've only been with your wife for 10 years?
And I've only had sex once. That's the most confusing thing.
Up.
Yeah.
This is like Me, Myself, and Irene, where
Yeah.
all his kids are black. And he can't figure it out. I swear, these are all your kids. Shit. Yeah, most of the negativity that they saw was feminist propaganda, even back then. Jesus. Yeah, I mean that we were still in that time at that point. It's like a bunch of kids arguing on the playground. Yeah, we're still going with that. And the problem with film discourse now is that movies are either the best thing. Oh yeah, 100%. Everything's a 10 or a 1. Everything's the greatest movie ever made, or it's the worst movie ever made. I see that. That's why I don't like responding to the comments. I think Jacob hits it perfect there. It's like the comments are like, worst movie I've ever seen, ever. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh
you have obviously not watched Spookies
you've ever seen.
Check out Nightmare Weekend. Check out The Weirdo.
I see Spookies, I always think of you immediately.
And Spookies isn't even the worst anymore. I that's just the one that I've it's like my little go-to. Because
why did you just molest Spookies? Just fucking, I have no clue.
However, I don't know why Spookies is the one, but like, no, Nightmare Weekend or The Weirdo. Have you ever seen Andy Milligan's The Weirdo? Any Andy Milligan film, you know you're in for a shit heap. But The Weirdo just is a special place in my heart because we watched it in a group of people. It was also The Weirdo, The Beginning, I think was the name. Like there was going to be more, which never came.
Worst movie ever. He's going with these 3. I have unfortunately seen all of these. They're bad. Good arguments.
I think Spookies, the reason I come down on Spookies, Mr. Boone, is because of the fact that I think it was a half-made movie. And then some other opportunists saw, hey, we can't let this go. So we're just going to film some video shit or whatever it was. Or maybe it was film. I can't really remember all that. And we're just going to
Spookies. What's with this?
It's my passion, damn it.
Spookies became Pookie really quick.
And I think that's where it comes from. It was just like slapdash put together. So there's some good stuff. Some of the monster stuff, at least they're practical effects and whatever. So I can give it a little bit of credit. And I think I just shit on it because I was just like so blown away. But there's definitely worse films out there for sure. Like I said, Nightmare Weekend being one. But I know people that will blow Nightmare Weekend as well. There's always someone's trash is someone else's treasure, right? Like this is just the reality of the situation.
You find me a single human being on this planet that likes the movie Death House. Find it.
Oh,
find
that
it.
Is,
I would like to see it because that is the worst movie I've ever seen.
And I remember that guy was promoting everything. In fact, I was doing a show where the other co-host brought him on board. That show's gone. It's dead in the water. It doesn't even exist. He didn't save any of the files, so it's even gone now, but it was out for a bit. And we interviewed that guy. And I could tell by that interview that he was a pompous ass and that movie was going to be a stinkeroo.
It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
Talk about a hodgepodge, like just get a bunch of people together and
together.
Oh my God. It was like horrible green screen, horrible everything.
Yeah.
Storytelling, everything. There's not a redeeming moment to it. You're right. That's a perfect example of garbage.
If you ever want a good laugh, go watch my review of Death House. I am visibly shook. Like I am so angry throughout that whole review and just disappointed in general. I'm just like, how does this exist?
The Expendables of horror.
It's like, and it sucks too, because the thing that kind of really pissed me off is that it's Gunnar Hansen's swan song. Like he wrote that movie and he was like, he died making it. And it's like, this is how we're going to remember the original Leatherface, with this fucking, exit. It's so piss poor in every imaginable way. The story isn't even semi-coherent. The production value on it, you have every single name in the books, like in the horror genre, in this movie. Everybody pops up in this movie. And this is what if anyone could explain that movie to me from beginning to end, I will give them my entire collection of film. You can have it. It's not possible. It's not possible, dude. I watched that movie and I was like, this isn't when they go down that elevator and then they get to these like lords of hell or whatever the fuck. I was like, I've beyond lost the plot hour ago. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Can you find that movie anywhere, Ethan? Like, I don't even think it's on Tubi.
I hope not.
Like, it's crazy, but
it's on. Anyway, it's on not Tubi. There's Tubi and there's not Tubi.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's Men of Action, everybody. We just decided to go right back to horror again for the last half hour.
No, we're covering a horror movie. Yes, you're right though. You're right. We're gonna get better. We're gonna get better because we're gonna try to talk more action throughout. But to be fair, we're horror guys with a horror crowd watching us. It's not like we started a new channel and we have a bunch of fucking action bros in the comments that are like, yeah, fucking kill him.
Yeah,
work out. Protein powder.
I don't do well with a lot of modern action. Not all modern action. I'm just saying, like the Fast and the Furious movies are not those are superhero movies to me. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I need something sort of more grounded. I mean, I don't mind over the top action. I like that, but these movies are ridiculous.
How many Fast and the Furious movies have you seen?
4.
Which ones? The first
1 through 4.
Oh, damn.
I didn't get to that.
You're blowing it. You're blowing it. You've got to watch them. You got to watch them. You got to at least try from Fast 5. You got to at least watch Fast 5.
Oh, fuck.
Because it gets so fucking ludicrous. It gets so fucking insane.
Isn't he in that? Isn't he in one of them?
Which ludicrous? Yeah, he is. It gets so Tyrese. It gets so Diesel. It gets so Rock. No. Yeah, no. It's I love him. I have such a fun time. The 10th Fast X. I had so much absurd fun with Jason Momoa being the most ridiculous villain I've seen on screen in years. I love it. I have a great time.
The most ridiculous villain seen on screen in years, although I enjoyed the movie, is The Beekeeper with that dude from Bridge to Terabithia or whatever, and he's like
Hutchinson,
or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that was ridiculous, but I watched it all the way through.
Oh, this is to the nth power more ridiculous.
Crazy.
This is so beyond ridiculous. You can't even fucking fathom how ridiculous the Fast movies get. But they're so funny, dude. You gotta get to Fast 5 because you saw 4, right? You saw the Fast and Furious or whatever.
Maybe I saw 5.
Where they're racing through like the tunnels at the end
I will take you up on it. I will check out Fast 5, 6, and beyond. Do they weaken Bernie's Walker? Do they ever does he come back into play? Don't they use his brother? Didn't they do something like that? They use
his brother as a double. No, they did not actually get Paul Walker and walk his corpse around set. They're like, Brian's dead. Let's just strap him to a car and get.
I didn't mean that as horrible as it came out, but I thought they used his brother, but not just to fill in.
They did.
They didn't actually bring him back as a character or anything like that later.
No,
aren't they like identical or something?
at the end of 7, he kind of gets his, his happy ending, and we watch some
Unfortunately,
Asian
it's my
masseuse jack him
Charlize's
off.
one arm.
We went to the same place.
Charlize is like, God damn it, I need my adapter.
He's like, he just came fast and furious. So but yeah, no, he gets his goodbye, and it's like he deserves a happy ending, and he goes off with this chick, and he lives happily ever after. He's done with the life. And so, they give him his goodbye. But I don't know, man. I have such a great time with everything 5 and up. And then they did the spin-off, the Hobbs and Shaw movie as well. They're super, super funny. Did you watch the new Roadhouse?
Yeah, I did.
Talk about a ridiculous, funny villain, dude. Fucking Conor McGregor in that movie is absolutely absurd.
Have you ever watched the TikTok or reel or whatever it was made by a guy pretending to be the first AD on that movie, and him filming himself reacting to what he's supposedly acting outside on the scene? And the first director's like, can we just try it this way once? I don't know why you're walking with your arms out like this. You've got to watch. I'm doing no justice to it, but you've got to watch it. The guy's bang on, and it's a fucking funny video. But I don't mean to cut this short, but this is going to be a reoccurring thing.
Okay.
I do have to go. I just realized that it was 4:30 my time.
Everyone else left a long while ago, so you might as well. No one was here anyway. So you could have left hours ago, and it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, all right. Well, that's the show, everybody. Christian is not going to return, so you will get different men of action. I'm going to get a transgender replacement for Christian in the next episode. Go woke or go broke. So that'll be in the next episode. It'd be better than you anyway. So what wouldn't?
He doesn't. He never thinks of my feelings, everybody. And it hurts.
What was this? I got to read this before we go. What was that text that you sent me? It wasn't even accurate because I was being serious for the first time ever.
Well, because he's always sarcastic. So I thought he was being. I thought he was
here
like,
it is.
Send me
the
something
amount
with
of
me
hate I have stored up for you is overwhelming. And I was like, dude, I'm serious.
No one knows what you're talking about. He goes, send me a picture. He goes, can you crop yourself out of it? And I'm like, you son of a bitch. The amount of hate I have for you is, and whatever, stored up for you. I thought he meant crop myself out. What would you think coming from him? Take me out of the picture. That's the better picture.
That's the thing.
There's our poster, everybody. Men of action.
Guys,
I will be back.
The Men of Action in the books. It was bad, but we'll get worse, I'm sure.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Adios to my wife, one of my wives.
Adios to my wife. See you later, babe.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Adios.